All right, everybody. This Hangout's live. Sorry we're a little late. Had some technical difficulties, as always. Blame it on Google. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy New Year. Today is January 2nd, and you're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. So as always, you can chat along with us in real time over on Twitter at hashtag CMGR Hangout. And even if you're watching the show later on, the community still lives on there, so drop by and say hi. If you love what you're seeing today, and if you have some ideas, maybe you want to be on the show, maybe you have an idea for a topic, go to our website at mycmgr.com, click on Participate. You can fill out a form. It's really your ideas and you guys who keep this community going. We're just here to run the show. So, all right, what do we have for you this week? Well, I'm going to be honest that I didn't do a ton of prep, so I'm going to read from my screen what's going on because it involves some research and I didn't have time to look into it. So what Sherry had said is in November, market research firm Forrest Research, they published a report for brands titled Relationship Strategies That Work. According to Fast Company, the crux of the research suggests that brands are wasting their time, effort, and money on Facebook and Twitter to diminishing returns. In fact, Nate Elliott, the vice president and principal analyst at Forrester, goes as far as to say, stop making Facebook the center of your relationship marketing efforts. So we've talked before about the pros and cons of having your own community platform and how to choose one, but sometimes it's just not an option. So what happens when you don't have an official community platform, but you need or want to grow a sense of community by meeting community members where they're at? So, really questions like how can you unify them on their own turf or a third-party platform? So we have some exciting guests for today, which they'll introduce themselves in a minute. And let's start with Steve. How you doing, Steve? Oh, you just got on mute. Oh, there you go. All right, cool.
I'm lovely, thank you.
Just tell everybody who you are and what you do. And
I am Steve Dembo. I do social media and online community for Discovery Education, the education arm of the Discovery Channel and various networks.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here today for the show. And Porter, how are you?
Hey, Brew. Nice to be here and see you again. I'm Porter Palmer, and I'm also with Discovery Education. Steve Dembo and I are colleagues, and we both work on the Learning Communities team, where one of our big roles is creating that sense of community, pretty much as of a community platform.
Awesome. Well, great to have you here. And next we have two people in a room. Dom, Sherry, how you guys doing? Why don't you introduce yourselves and then tell everyone why you're hanging out together? That's exciting.
Go ahead.
Me first? All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Sherry Rohde, and I co-produce CMGR Hangout here with Brew, as well as lead community and user experience at a company called Rebellion Media. And I don't know, I got lost and ended up at this guy's house. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, it was the sign out front that said free candy. I think that's what it was.
It worked.
And I am Dom Garrett. I am Chief Social Officer and co-founder of Gathering at the Gathering app, and I convinced Sherry to come and hang out on her way from Illinois to Canada. So, yeah.
Excellent. And let's see, Christoph, do we have your audio yet? Oh, we don't. No, dang it all. Well, guys, we're gonna try to bring Christoph back here. Say hi to us. We'll try to help him troubleshoot his audio a little bit more, and hopefully things will work out. So, hi everyone. I am Brew, the director of Awesome with Be the Change Revolutions. I do social media strategy and community management as the cornerstone of all of that strategy, and then also I guess moonlight, if you will, with Sherry here at my community manager, co-producing the show with her. So. All right, let's just jump into the first question, which is where's the best place you found? Is that our first question, by the way? I'm just totally reading off. Yeah. So where is the best place that you found to connect with your community? So who wants to tell us where they can connect with their community best? Don't be shy. You just got to unmute yourself. Then you just jump right in.
I wasn't sure whether it was bad protocol for me to unmute myself or whether you needed to.
Oh yeah, actually,
the unmute button. Or...
Yeah. No, I will just mute people. You can unmute yourself anytime.
Okay.
So.
No, I see how it is. Okay, you're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to meet people where they are. We decided we haven't been able to build sort of the place for everyone to kind of congregate within our online community, within our own sites and structures. We're in the process of trying to do that right now, but because we haven't been able to do that in the past, we've tried to, wherever the people are already congregated, we've tried to find ways for them to huddle up and circle and create their own little, using the Google analogy, create their own little subcircles, through our company as a brand, in a sense. So, through Twitter groups and Twitter lists, through Facebook groups, as well as the actual brand page. There's some education-specific social networks, like Edmodo is another one, where people kind of congregate around. We try and make sure that we're going to meet them in the places where they're already hanging out, because otherwise you're trying to give them, one extra step to being able to hang out with each other. And anytime it's a one-off, we find you're constantly trying to drag them. If they're already hanging out there, then at least you've already got part of that process already taken care of.
Yeah, this won't drag out a conversation very long, because the answer to this, in my opinion, is really quite simple. And so I'm going to repeat question. Where is the best place you found to connect with your community? And from our perspective, the most simple answer is wherever they are.
Well, that's awesome.
If they are on Facebook, we're on Facebook. If they're on Twitter, we're on Twitter. If they're at a conference, we want to be at a conference so that we can help them find each other and connect with each other.
Sure, absolutely, and I think although this isn't a place, so this community, obviously the place is the internet, but for my community manager, but I think one of the important parts is the consistency of our place, right? It's like you can always show up at the hashtag, you can always say hi there, you can show up every Friday, and whether it's a Canadian holiday or a U.S. holiday or my birthday, the show still goes on. And so everybody knows, even if you miss it a few weeks, once you become part of it, because of that consistency, like, hey, it's Friday, I know I should be somewhere, right? And I think that goes the same sometimes even with conferences, right? Is the conference is the physical spot, but it's more the consistency of the conference where they know, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna see those guys this year, right? So cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to add to that.
Thing?
Oh, go ahead, Dom, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to make a poorly timed and not really funny joke.
By just claiming that you actually made a really funny joke. I also have found that wherever our community begins to build community is the place to connect. For example, I'll go back to a Facebook group that, like, we at Discovery Education, we don't own the group. We aren't administrators within the group. There's a page called Denvice that members of our community have created. There are weekly chats that members of the community have created, and so just by supporting what we would call their passion projects, that's meeting them where they are, and rather than us creating something new, it's a matter of jumping in and elevating their voice.
Very cool. Dom, sure you guys got anything to add? Anything
we find a lot of success on Facebook with our community, to be honest, just because that is where they actively are, and we do a lot of promotion to them so that they see our conversation threads. And pretty much everything we post is a discussion question anyway, based around an article that they can relate to. So we actually originally built those communities because we were accidentally building communities on Facebook ads. So we gave them a place to really hang out.
Yeah, Sherry, can I ask you a couple technical questions about that? So are you, do you have like a company page, or are you doing actually like a Facebook group?
So they're not Facebook groups, they're company, I guess, kind of company pages. They're health networks, so we have 34 communities, but there's no actual parent community anywhere. They're specialized by like COPD, fibromyalgia, lupus, and other chronic health conditions, and so they're narrowed down just by that, and then sometimes they get a little more narrow just by who's there and what they can most commonly relate to. So.
And then I think I heard you say something about paid advertisements. Are you leveraging paid media to make sure that your audiences are seeing your content?
And we get really high engagement, even organic engagement, just by boosting some posts paid. So it works really well.
So some paid, some organic. Great. Cool. All right. Let's see if I don't know if anything else is coming through. Let's see. Somebody, so it's interesting. A lot of people also mentioning on Twitter here, just platforms is where the best place they found to connect with their communities. Kristen Jones says, I'm lucky enough to be able to meet a lot of community members and volunteers at various F2F events, so like face to face. So that's cool. All right.
I mean, I would love to add to that. So, part of what we do at Discovery is we have an annual week-long summer professional development conference that is a competitive application process. We bring in about 150 educators from all across North America. We've had folks from as far away as Romania. This past summer we had folks from the United Kingdom, and they get a real intensive community building experience, and that carries over because those folks are really passionate, and then they share more with each other. And Steve, I'd love to pass the ball over to you for a second to talk about the events that we do throughout the year that involve face-to-face, in addition to just that 1 week.
Well, that's the irony is, I mean, technically my title is online community manager, but what we found is it's the face-to-face events that really create the bonds that tie everybody together, and then the online community really kind of fills in the gap. So we're in a slightly different situation in that we're targeting just one subsect of the general public, and for the most part, the educators and school administrators and so on, and we're kind of broadening it out now to do more with students and parents and so on. But primarily, it's educators, and when we can do these face-to-face events, we've tried to adopt not only the large-scale events like Reporter's describing, but also trying to find cost-effective ways to have these tentpole events around the different country. Sort of TEDx style, but slightly different, kind of a blend of TEDx with Unconference and so on, but still under the Discovery brand, where people can kind of congregate together, provide these sort of touch points, because, as much as I enjoy doing these kinds of things, and these things are, Hangouts are cost-effective and they're a great way to reach a large number of people, very few people will close the lid on their laptop after one of these events and say, that changed my life. But at the end of a 2 or 3 hour face-to-face event, you do get people that have that sort of experience. So, whenever we can provide face-to-face opportunities for people to congregate, what we found is that does more to breed our top 1% of evangelists. They're the ones who really kind of lead the community. They're the ones who inspire everybody else. They're the ones who keep bringing more people in and and helping to build it up. But the online element of it, the online community, definitely helps provide touch points so that everyone stays close and tight knit. But you can't discount the power of a single afternoon face to face together.
And so
Yeah.
after you have those, see, I did it again, Dom. After you have those folks that come together and they're really inspired, one of the next steps that we take is to help give them the tools that they need to then host, you know, a small in-person gathering back at their school, their district, their hometown, provide them the tools that they need to continue to spread that love and that sense of community. And so we give them little things to give away, ideas for things that they might talk about, story starters, conversation starters, things to help them prepare to discuss further and build more community.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys completely on that. You know, going to the part that, you know, Dave, when you were talking about the, I'm sorry, Steve. I don't know why I called you Dave. That's the worst. It's a good thing I'm not talking at all today because apparently I don't even know people's names. But that idea of TEDx and that really, you know, the entire name of this is meeting people where they're at. You know, people want to have that personalization factor. You know, like, I like that we all get to do this and we're all sort of part of that community. But at the same time, you know, when you get it like in somebody's city, you know, TEDx Grand Rapids that I went to, you know, those are big ideas that you're sharing, connecting to this big community, but then it's making it so localized. And it's, you know, it's really making it so, you know, that's what we do with all of this, trying to get to people where they're at. It's that idea of, you know, you really understand me more than just a client relationship or more than just something like that. It's like you get where I'm at. You're sort of in my life for that time, and we're sharing that space. And that's the great thing about online, is that it allows a lot more people to be able to connect to that. But like you said, that face-to-face, you know, that getting to hang out because of free candy, you know, that's the cool type of stuff.
I'm going to dive us into question number 2 here to keep us clocking along. And this question is, how do you conduct outreach to community members on larger social media platforms? So let's talk about Facebook, let's talk about Twitter, maybe Instagram. So if you want to outreach to community members there on these larger networks, how are you doing that? Other than, I mean, I think there's, let's just state this, right? Obvious is we post. And sometimes we press the boost button, but you know, I think beyond that, what are some other ways of maybe reaching out?
iPad giveaways mostly, you know, just to try to get as many likes on your page. I think that's a good idea.
See, this is what you're proving these Forrester articles correct, Dom. So if you're listening, Forrester, that was a joke.
No, but I think that one of the, obviously you're posting and you're doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it starts, I think, when it comes to the content creation, like that side of it, like looking at it through the lens of, is this going to be able to provide value? Is the person that's going to read it? You know, because that's the most important thing, because if you're doing that, I think I said it on a chat a couple months ago, but it's just, if you make good shit, then that's the best thing that you could really do for outreach, is because that's the type of stuff that people are going to want to talk about, and then continuing the engagement sort of through there, starting sort of top down.
I also think that there's, so, all right, I'll be honest. I think there are some places where we do a very, very good job of it, and there are other places where we don't, where we're not doing quite as good job on it right now. You know, Facebook, I don't think we're doing quite as good, but I also think that, you know, you were just kind of joking about it. I think Facebook has become a lot more of a pay-to-play environment than, I mean, you know, I understand they want to make a buck. I totally get that, but it's becoming harder and harder to get your content to be displayed on other people's timelines and so on, unless you've already hit sort of this snowball tipping point, if you will. With Twitter, what we've tried to really do is just acknowledging the fact that there are sometimes things that we just have to put out there that are informational, that are about promotions, that are about sweepstakes, things that we have going on, releases, and so on. What we're trying to do is do a better job of just providing a balance. Making sure that those things go out, not too many of them per day, but then also there is organic content happening throughout the day in between those. That there is going to be people at conferences covering those conferences live through the Discovery Ed account, that we're using our account to highlight and promote the things that our community members are doing. More than anything, that we've got a human being that's actually providing some of the content too, versus just looking like a press release machine, if you will. And honestly, it's a tightrope, I feel like. But that's sort of the approach that we've taken. We'll make sure that we've got to pay the bills. We've got some of the the promoted stuff that we have to do going off throughout the day. But we fill in those gaps with actual, responsible, like what you were just saying, Dom, the stuff that's really going to get them talking, that this is going to be really meaningful to them, that may not necessarily have to do with your product, your service, your company itself, but it taps into what your community is into. If it's tapping into what the community is into, if they're making associations with the brand around the topics of things that are important to them, that's what's going to build community, build associations, and it's going to keep there's going to be benefits keep circling back around.
So I want to make a point on the Facebook side of things, which is just an observation. So I don't know why there's some Facebook page that shows you a bunch of really stupid stuff all the time. Just kind of like these. It's like one of these sites where you're like going to say like, oh, did he really do that, or does this picture really look like that? And I don't know. I'm a sucker for that, right? And so somehow they bait link me into always clicking on their pages. But like Facebook knows that I like the stuff because it's funny, and when it comes to me, it's like I end up clicking away and looking at their site, right? And so I think that yes, it's a paid-to-play space, but don't discount the fact that if you're creating good content, people will be liking it. Therefore, Facebook will say, this person likes this stuff. I will show them that, right? And also, I think even on the paid side of things, I definitely think that paid strategy needs to be part of your plan for Facebook. But even with the paid strategy, yeah, you might be showing it, to different demographics. Let's say if you're just specifically trying to advertise, but if your plan involves just paying to show it to your existing community members, the ones that actually care are still the ones that are going to interact with you. And depending on how big your community is, you're going to notice like some reoccurring people, right? You're going to still learn about those people. You're going to know that, oh, this person always reacts this way to this content. And if you take the time and actually read the comments that are coming back to the content you so carefully crafted, then paid money to produce, and interact with those with that community, I think that is your perfect way to outreach, to community members over on the big platform. So, sorry,
yeah,
Sherry,
I was just gonna say, like, I don't actually understand why people get their underwear on and not about paying to play, because if you think about it, like, paying for any social media advertising versus traditional advertising is seriously dirt cheap, and it's really not that bad to pay some money to play on someone else's turf that they've already collected everyone for you, even if it's just to reach people you already know. Like, how many times have we gone out and bought a product that we're already a fan of just because we saw an advertisement on TV or social media or wherever that reminded us, oh, hey, yeah, I should go get that again because I'm out, or subconscious, like, messaging like that, and other, like, in movies even, product placement and whatnot. Like, paying to play is not new, and just because Facebook is new doesn't mean that we shouldn't have to pay to play there as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think what's a little bit different to me is the evolution of it. That it used to be, because of the algorithms that they used, so you didn't have to. You had a better chance of having your content be seen as a brand in organic ways, a few years ago than you do right now. But that said, I agree with what you were just saying there, Brew. Is if you use your dollars intelligently, not just to get eyeballs to see your post, but to actually interact with them organically, then that's going to pay dividends because the more, obviously, the more people are interacting with your content, the more they're going to wind up, the more it's going to show up in their feed anyway. And, what I was saying, that's what we haven't done a stellar job of yet, which is why some of our best evangelists may not be seeing our content on a regular basis because they haven't interacted, because we haven't given them a reason enough or a compelling enough reason to actually interact with that content yet. Believe me, it's great. Believe me, I love our content. I think it's wonderful. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's compelling enough for someone to want to leave a comment or to like it or anything like that,
Yeah, right. We're just bombarded by like a billion messages. I made up that stat, by the way. If Forrester's again listening, that's a made up stat. Kabillion. But no, you're right. I mean, I think just taking it seriously, right, is probably the best way to do outreach. Is look at it as outreach and not just like, okay, cool, check the box, made my post, did my tweet, awesome. Now I move on, right? I believe that is very much what I read. Like when I read those papers, which by the way, after I did the intro, I realized like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. I think certainly if you're just going through the motions, yeah, stop doing it, right? But I think especially in this community here, we're a bunch of people that take our jobs seriously, and we're building community no matter what the platform. So. All right, let's jump us into the next question about the benefits. So let's talk about the benefits of using an existing platform versus building your own. So who's got some experience in this?
I would say that the benefit is that you have everybody that's all there. You know what I mean? You have a template that's right there. I know, if I'm trying to speak to my audience on Twitter, I know the language that they speak because I'm taking my time and I'm there. When I was working for Satusa, we had one of our targets and part of our base was a community on Pinterest. And while I don't natively speak Pinterest, I know enough to learn how to do that. So you don't have to.
Is it more like a third language for you, or like third or fourth?
Yeah,
language?
I would say so.
Do you own the Rosetta Stone for it though?
You stole my joke. I was just saying that I was waiting for my Pinterest Rosetta Stone to come in. But I think it's puppies, workout photos, and recipes. I think that's in case you need to learn how to speak Pinterest. But another bad joke there. But yeah, you already have what everybody is going to be talking about, how they are going to be talking, and you know how to reach them. And that's again like the whole topic this week is coming to where people are. And when it's an existing platform, you have a ton of data and research and articles of how exactly to reach somebody if you know that they're a 45-year-old female from the Midwest on Pinterest.
So speaking of Pinterest, it just triggers a thought of one of the answers about using an existing platform, building one yourself, is actually related to the Pinterest conversation, and as well as what we've done with Twitter and with Facebook. But it made more sense for me with Pinterest because when we first started meeting our community where they were with Pinterest, we had these conversations about, is it going to spread us too thinly? Are we going to be able to do an adequate job in that space that it's of value? Because from our perspective, we're in education, so there are lots of things that are pinned there, lesson plans, all sorts of ideas that teachers are into. But one of the biggest benefits of meeting people where they are is that we had community members who raised their hand and said, I love Pinterest, can I help? And so we were able not to just be people that we are creating or finding content worth sharing, but we were able to talk to community members who had that passion and give them some parameters that say things like, from our perspective, don't put anything that links to something that costs teachers money, or make sure that you follow all the links to make sure they're not spammy. And then here are the keys to the kingdom. We give you permission and beg you to enjoy yourself pinning on our behalf. And that comes back in threefold of the benefits of doing that, because the people who are already passionate about it, it just builds them up even further and makes them greater brand advocates. And it's just doing good, basically.
So we've had our own troubles with building our own existing platforms. Most notably, way back in the day when we asked somebody to build a custom blog engine for us, and they built something that did not even include RSS feeds because they thought RSS was unnecessary to blog engines. Sometimes people don't necessarily just quite get what you're really going for. So building a brand new platform is a challenge. But I will also point out one other thing. I mean, this is, once again, going way back in the day. I don't know how many of you remember a platform called Plurk, which I think is still around. But I actually, when Twitter was kind of first coming up and Plurk was just kind of joining the social world, looking at them analytically, side by side, I actually thought that Plurk had a better feature set and was actually a superior platform for building community. And I actually wrote a few blog posts on the topic, and I actually convinced a lot of people to jump ship from Twitter over to Plurk. I'll still stand by the reasons for that, but Plurk ultimately failed, whereas Twitter thrived for one big, massive reason. It's where people already were. And like what we were talking about earlier, we were talking about trying to, where do you engage with your community, and how do you do outreach, or this and that. If you're already meeting them where they are, somewhere well established, and you're already sort of halfway there, to try and get them to take the conversation, to take the niche, to take the community they're already a member of, and to move it to a completely separate platform, that takes an enormous amount of effort. And you've got to have something that's really, really compelling, and to be to be in it, you've got to be committed to doing it for the long term, because it's going to take, in my mind, at least 6 months to a year to even get a semblance of a snowball effect going. To even be within sight of a critical mass. It's an enormous effort to try and get people to switch, to add another social network to the list of things that they're already checking. That's why, in my mind, 90% of the time, better to just to meet people where they already are versus trying to build a new structure entirely.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna quickly bring in a tweet from. Actually, let's see here. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Thanks, Twitter. Hang on here. So Mark Katz, before when we were talking about Facebook, he said the content must be creative and compelling. Without a paid strategy, it won't be seen. So since we're on a little bit of a delay, he tweeted that out kind of as we were getting to our next one. But I definitely wanted to bring that into our conversation, and Matt even commented, we won't be seen and we won't be heard. So. Let's roll us into our next question, since we're talking about kind of, Steve, you were touching, I believe, on a few of the obstacles, but this question is, what are some of the obstacles to reaching members on their platforms?
To reaching members on their existing platforms?
On their existing platforms, right? So we say, like, hey, we want to go where they are. What are some of the obstacles of getting over to where they are?
I'll go back to the Facebook and the pay-to-play. Maybe because we got used to having a rich conversation on Facebook, and as the algorithms changed, we need to change as well. But if you're competing with cute puppy videos that people have just curated, that's what's going to show up on people's feeds, and it's not going to be things that, hey, go to this in-person great event. We apparently need to combine that with cute puppy videos for it to be seen.
Don't forget about cats too. Cats help.
Right, cats.
They make things go viral.
Yes, cats and cute puppies. And don't get me wrong, I love a cat and a cute puppy.
Yeah, I think. I think the really one of the obstacles I think about is the fact that if you're meeting them on their platform, there's just so damn many of them, right? And so we have to make the decision and say, okay, we're only doing these platforms. That's the only capacity we have. It's all we can do well. But even more than one platform, depending on growth, it just becomes a lot. You're trying to divide your time. You're trying to divide your content. You're trying to repurpose content. I mean, it's definitely a challenge trying to interact wherever everyone is, for sure.
And, some of the things that we do to sort of help with those obstacles is we actually do have a platform. It's just not a community platform. So the majority of folks who interact with us use Discovery Education Services, and there's a website that they go to. So we're able to use that website to help direct people to find us on Facebook or Twitter or all of these places where you are. We still do an old-fashioned, well, I can't say old-fashioned, it's a web-based electronic newsletter every Friday except during the holidays that still, tells people all of the things that are going on within our community and continues to direct them out to the places where they can connect. We also still have a fantastic blog that has community members are the majority of the contributors to that, and it still brings people around to, hey, meet up with us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, so we're doing things to help bring people. I think I just answered like the next upcoming question. I'm so sorry for doing that.
No, that's all right. That's all right, completely.
But that's really about, how are we getting around those obstacles? How are we facing those obstacles? And some of them are good old-fashioned ways of, at in-person events, we're making sure we're telling people how to find us where they are.
Cool. It's time to bring in a couple questions from Twitter. So the first is
the portion of our show where Twitter gets to follow up.
So Kyle says, how do you know when it's time to embrace a new platform, though? So what are your thoughts on that, guys?
That's a tricky one. Because they do pop up pretty often.
I mean, I could go super romantic with this and just say, if your audience is there and your community is there, then it's time for you to embrace it. I mean, I know that sounds really cliche, like sort of buzzword-ish, but if they're there and you see that they're talking about it, yeah, you should start to embrace it.
Although the interesting part about this, right, is that for a while now, I feel like it's like, okay, you got Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, right? That maybe those are the top 5 that are like have enough people on them that if you're gonna have any kind, like, I don't see anybody like, yeah, oh, we're experimenting with Snapchat or we're experimenting with this, right? Like, I think those 5 are kind of been stuck in the, hey, if you're gonna pick 1 or 5 of these 5, pick these. But how will we know? Is it some stat? Is it just, well, we'll know when we'll know? I mean, when is it right for us to get on Snapchat? When is it right for us to get on Yik Yak? I don't know, right?
You mean you're not on Yik Yak already?
Well, I'm on Yik Yak, absolutely, but but I mean, as communities on brands, like,
Right.
how do we know? I mean, when is the time? Like, think about this Elo thing, right? Elo, that thing seems to be blowing up, but it's not like brands are like, holy crap, let's dive into those communities over there. Why aren't they doing that? How do we know when it's right?
Steve and I practice with these things regularly, so something new will come out. Like, I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember Yo?
Yep, for sure.
So Yo comes out, and the only thing that it does is it sends the word Yo to each other. So it's sort of like a poke, but not exactly. And, everybody was talking about it for like 30 seconds. And during that 30 seconds that it was the big thing, Steve and I tested out with each other. And it's about being like a lifelong learner and saying, hey, do you see the value in this? And we're both former teachers. We're still educators, but we're both former teachers, so we still sort of get what resonates with our community. So it's a matter of knowing your community, knowing where they are. There are innumerable people in the education field who were brought to Twitter because of my friend and colleague Steve Dembo. So sometimes it's, as Dom said, when your community is there, you meet them there, and you'll know that because you see them. But other times, not necessarily in the case of Yo, but certainly in the case of Twitter, Steve brought us to Twitter. So sometimes you bring your community with you to that platform, even though he liked Plurk better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a really good point there. I mean, it's you have to, as a community manager, you, like you said, you're a lifelong learner. You are constantly studying and learning your community. Like, you're learning it inside and out. Like Bruce talked about how, he watched a bunch of Gossip Girl because he had a community that's what they would watch, or like I've heard you guys talk about like 5 Seconds of Summer before, like stuff that you might not know. So you have to try to get like this intimate knowledge of your community, and then you embrace it when you honestly look at it and go, wow, I think that they can get value out of that. And then you bring, that's when you really get behind it. You're like, holy cow, this is going to be what's really going to, people are really going to love this. It's not for you or so that you can reach more people without having to pay as much, because Elo said they're not going to have advertisements, so you could whatever, yada yada. It's just trying to go after it from that perspective of, hey, is this going to be good for them? And if the answer is yes, then hell yeah, you should embrace it. You should hug on to it. And then if it goes away, well, it goes away. That's the way that this world works.
Kelly Caesars from Twitter said, don't just half-ass when joining a new platform. Going all in and standing out is what's going to deliver results on new platforms. I just want to add that into our mix here, because I think it plays into what we're talking about, and it's absolutely right.
Okay, no, I disagree just a little bit, though.
You think so?
Well, no. But here's what I mean. To me, there's always sort of these two levels. There's sort of the exploratory level, and then there's that point where you make the commitment. Do you know what I mean? Because at some point, there are times I'd rather actually jump in and test the waters and see how it goes, see whether it resonates, see what it does, what you actually want it to do. But that doesn't mean I'm going to start putting it on my business cards, putting it in my email signature, or anything along those lines at that point. Then once you reach that certain threshold, once you figure out, all right, so this is the right flavor for us, that's when, like you're pointing out, that's when you don't half-ass it. You go in, and if you're going to go in, you go in all the way. Once you decide you're going to make that commitment that we are going to have a presence here, that it's going to be ongoing, that it's going to be for the rest of the year, then you have to make it pervasive. You have to make it so that you're plugging it every single time, and you have to use your existing platforms to drive traffic over to the other ones. You know what I mean? So that's why we made the decision. Like for example, when we're trying to build up our Instagram audience, and that Instagram is something that we want to be using in our professional development and so on, that we weren't going to take the same photos and post them onto Facebook and onto Twitter. Instead, we were going to try and make that the integration work so that it shows up as an Instagram link on those other platforms, so that people are forced to click through and wind up. You know what I mean? You try and make sure you're going to sync up.
No, definitely, but I do think though. So I think there's maybe this middle ground where even in testing though, like you still gotta give it the old college try a little bit, so to speak. Even with the testing, is just make sure that I'd say just make sure that you're going through and giving it the fairness that it deserves.
Yes.
And going a little, you're exactly right. You're not gonna throw it on your email signatures and start putting it at the end card on your commercials just right away. But no, that was a great conversation. The other thing I want to bring up here was from Jacob. Said, hey, why not use your existing community to ask them if they'd be interested in your brand being present there? Meaning, so let's say you want to experiment with a new platform. Say like, hey, anyone over on Snapchat? Add us, right? I mean, just asking once doesn't mean you need to put it in your strategy document and roll it out all the way up to the CMO, but might be a way for you to test the waters and just see who would be interested to begin with.
Wait, so you're saying you could just ask your community a very forward question and see what their response is? That's a thing you can do?
Yeah, it's actually one of the benefits of a community.
So I thought a community was just a way to build my email newsletter list. I thought that was it.
Yeah. See, now you're making one of those jokes again that Forrester is.
For you, I can do that.
All right. So let's see. Let's jump in. We got about 9 minutes here. Increase retention and engagement. That's the one we're on, right? So how do you increase retention and engagement of your community on their own turf? So when we're talking about going to their turf, what are some things we use to increase engagement?
I'll jump in. I have found that giving them as much ownership as possible. So, like, almost not removing myself, but taking it away from a top-down approach. If a community member has a great idea, sometimes it carries significantly more weight than if I post something. So, I mean, that increases engagement. If the idea comes from one of the members of our community, I've just noticed that members of the community are more willing to sort of be aggressive about, hey, you aren't participating enough, snap to it, and we are nicer and kinder than that. So they're more forceful and will they keep each other in check. And so just if somebody has an idea, right now we've got the Den Fit Club going on, which is the first of the year. And normally Steve has taken the lead on, the fitness thing because I'm just not into that. I take the lead on the naps and things like that. He takes the lead on the fitness stuff. But we found community members were really passionate about it. So this year, that was naps, N-A-P-S, naps. Sorry, there was a question about that. So he takes the fitness, but we had a community member who was really excited about it. So that community member wrote the blog post, promoted it on Facebook and on Twitter, and our job has been to retweet that person, and that's how there'll be lots of engagement because the members of the community create it and they're behind it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think especially right now, in the evolution of things that are going on, it's been true forever, right? But I mean, one of the basic principles of word of mouth is that it's not about what we say about us; it's what we get them to say about us, right? And I think the same thing goes for engagement and content. Is the more I can make this about the consumer, about the community, make them feel like they have a hand in it, that it was their idea. It was, I mean, and that's, if you think about it, what's funny is that's also like a basic leadership principle, right? Like you got a bunch of people that you want to make them do stuff, make them think like it was their idea, the thing that you want them to do, and they'll go ahead and do it a lot better without complaining, right? And so it's kind of similar concepts with our communities is make them believe that well, make that sounded terrible. Allow them to be in control, right?
I prefer give them the opportunity.
Make them believe they're actually, no, that would be terrible. But like yeah, I think just let them help, let them contribute, give them, empower them. And you'll see some of the biggest engagement, right?
Empowering is a favorite term, I think.
It's like that idea of your community looking at it like a dinner party, and you're the host. Like it's that thing that the dinner party itself is only as good as the guests, and the guests really have to feel like they want to be there and want to be a part of that. And you're the one that's just there that's connecting those people so that they are the ones that can collaborate. They're the ones that can then go, hey, let's go hang out over here, let's do this, that whole sort of idea. And because if you just go and you're just talking the entire time, nobody's going to ever want to come back to that.
Yeah. And if given the opportunity, a lot of them would like to bring a dish too.
Yep. A through G is going to bring vegetables. H through Z can bring solo cups, paper plates.
Oh, all right. So, guys, our last question to round out our day. We're going to talk about metrics, right? So, when we're talking about communities, whether they are ones we're going where they are, or there are communities, what are some of the most important metrics? What's the stuff you actually care about, and what's the vanity?
Oh, I mean, for me, it all revolves around engagement. I mean, that's what. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I love views. I love click-throughs in general, but just overall engagement. That's why I love the new Twitter statistics that we get access to. It's a phenomenal upgrade over what we used to get, and now you can really see what people are actually doing with your content and what's working, what's not, why it's working, why it isn't. But yeah, engagement. That's what it really comes down to. And for me, at least, especially on Facebook, it's the getting beyond the likes. It's the actual comments and so on. I mean, that's those things are like gold to me.
Yeah, it's the qualitative data are really important to me. I consider it a successful year when my inbox has been pretty much flooded with thank you for connecting me to other members of this community. It has changed my life. And I get those on a regular basis, and if there's not somewhere between 50 and 100 in a year, then I feel kind of sad about it. But most years there are emails that regularly say, being part of this community made me a better teacher. And when I hear that, I know that that translates into it made a difference for the 30 to 300 children that teacher worked with. And so I just sort of, count lives changed based on emails.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you brought up the qualitative side of the metrics. Because sometimes the stuff that's hard to actually measure is the best stuff to pay attention to. Ooh, that's very tweetable, by the way. yeah, it's just, I think it's interesting. When I first read this question, I thought, okay, definitely, yeah, engagement I think is an important metric. Those engagement levels when you're talking about building community, and so, but don't get that, but don't also overlook that if you have advertising objectives, things like reach really matter, especially in the Facebook world, right? Because we've talked about this topic on the show a few times, but we have to just know that there are people that consume our content that just don't interact with it. I know Facebook is trying to like send out little videos and say, hey, look, please make sure you like the stuff you like, otherwise you won't see it anymore, and things like that. They're trying to get people into the habit of liking content. But there's still passive people. There's still the lurkers, especially in your own communities, on your bulletin boards and things like that. You have people who just read, and so from a pure advertising perspective, I think if you're going to pay, reach is also still important.
Yeah, I mean, when thinking of lurkers, I think of I heard this the other day. Imgur, the image hosting site for Reddit, is the 6th most visited site on the entire internet, and only 10% of people that go there are actual active users. So you're talking a huge amount of people that are still there, and you're not going to get the comments or the one-ups or the little hearts from them, but they're still paying attention to it. So,
right.
Sherry and I are sitting over here going, engagement is great, but there is so many times where it's a lot more than just engagement.
Well, all right. So looking at it from a community manager perspective, the engagement piece is the most important piece. If you were to ask me personally, but you guys you're 100% hitting the nail on the head. Is if we were to go to different business units around our division and the people that were using social media to promote and to support and so on, you'll get a lot of different answers. Like Brew was just saying, reach is obviously a huge number, and that's one of the reasons why people like social media so much. Is a very cost-effective way to get a lot of eyeballs to see something. So, no, you're absolutely right. You can't discount that.
But yeah, and I would also say, I think as a community manager, things like reach and impressions and all of those things are important if you want to start pulling budgets away from the other departments from the social side of things, because if you can show them, hey, look, I'm generating the same, if not more, for a lower cost. Now you can, there's dollars available within the company to arm you with reaching your community members better. But still, at the end of the day, my guess is that if you're focusing on engagement, what's going to happen is you're going to get good reach and you're going to get good impressions and your content spreading to the right people. As long as your engagement is there, because you can take the crappiest content and sure, like you can falsely inflate numbers by paying for some right side ads or doing whatever, right? But I think if you're true on to saying, hey, everything I make, everything I put out there, engagement's my number one, thing that I'm trying to do to build my community. Again, just looking at that funnel of community, I think I would agree with you, Steve.
Right on.
So, all right, guys. Well, it is 2 minutes after the hour, and we are complete. We are done. Thank you. It went fast. Probably could do another hour. Always feels that way. And thanks for joining us, Porter and Steve and Christoph. Hopefully, we can get you on a future show when your sound's working. So, thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next Friday. Oh, Sherry, what's our topic for next week? Do we have one?
Open mic.
Oh, I love open mic. So that'll be fun. So please, guys, just come hang out. Go to our website, mycmgr.com, click on participate, say, hey, open mic, that sounds boss. I'd like to be on. And we'll fill up with 10 people and talk about stuff. So, all right, guys. And don't forget our cmad.co for Community Manager Appreciation Day coming up. And all right.
Award nomination.
The award nomination.
One more thing is that Dom has an announcement that I overlooked in the chat. So go ahead, Dom.
The award nomination page is live. We already have close to 20 nominations for different community managers across the world. So in the Twitter chat right now, or if you just go to cmad.co, you can find it on there. you should nominate your favorite community managers for a couple of different awards because they're going to get some sweet swag. And also, while you're there and you're on the internet, everybody wish Brew a very happy birthday since it is his birthday today.
Oh, thanks, Dom. And don't forget, while you're at your cmad.co, I believe there's a way for you to share your story on how you became a community manager, and we're loving those guys. We're publishing those, so please share with the rest of the community what inspired you to become one of these people that we are. So, all right, guys, have a great week. See you next Friday. Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.